Okay, so this video is going to be about a story that I have with a guy who I used to know, and this story is really suited for anyone who's thought about quitting their business or their agency journey, or really whatever goal you're actually striving to hit right now. This is a story which I basically predicted before, and then I realized it actually played out now. So I'm going to explain that to you, and I hope you get a lot of value from it, because I think it's going to be valuable to people who are considering stopping what they're doing, or they're maybe not at a certain point yet and they want to stop, or they have doubts, and I'm sure it'll help a lot of people. So yeah, if you don't know who I am, my name is Ben Lister. I help agency owners, business owners, by documenting all of my business learnings on this YouTube channel that currently help me to make multi-six figures per year. So firstly, the guy I'm talking about, let's call him Steven. Okay, so Steven is a guy who I met in a community a long time ago now. He was like the first person who I ever really spoke to in sort of like the agency world. And this was a guy who was starting a business at the same time as me. I actually had already started the business, but I kind of moved into a different business. And so I was now officially starting like an Smma, right? And so I was reaching out to people who were in the home improvement space. So this was companies in the UK, companies in the US, kitchen remodelers, like that kind of business, right? And he actually started a business, and he was working with gyms. And so we were doing the same sort of things. We were kind of had the same problems that we were facing on a daily basis. First of all, it started with generating appointments, then it started with closing appointments, then it went to actually delivering the service, right, and so on and so forth. And there was many different points where things would go wrong for both of us, right, and we would both have to come up with the same solution. And so one problem that we faced, for example, was actually closing the deals. And so sales was the thing that when I first started was like a big issue for me. I just wasn't a charismatic and natural salesperson. I've later realized that this just doesn't matter at all. But one of the issues that we had with sales, and we'd go through that, and we'd share each other's calls, we'd do mock calls together, we would go through different objection and all that kind of stuff, right? And then there was an issue that came about when it came down to service delivery. And I think he had signed, I think this was his first client. I think it must have been. And so he'd signed his first client. I was on like 2, I think, by now. And so this is a problem that I was overcoming currently. And it became about, once we generated leads for our clients, for our businesses that we were working with, then it came about actually managing those leads. And so we had the same idea that if we go to a business and we say, hey, you only pay us for the actual appointments that we generate, then that's a great offer, right? And this is how we basically started. And until we had case studies and stuff like that, this is how we wanted to do it. And so because we're talking about appointments and not leads, then what we would have to do is we would have to call the leads itself, right? And so if you've done this before, if you're doing this right now, you'll know that this is going to take not like the vast majority of your day up. If you're working for 10 hours a day, you might call for 4 or 5 hours these leads. Like you really might do that like for such a long time. You might be calling these leads at 9 p.m., 10 p.m. at night, and it's tricky. Like it really is tricky, because obviously you're running everything else and you're the person that's calling the leads. And the way that I set it up was I was actually telling my clients like, oh yeah, we've done this before and stuff like that, which is like a big mistake, and it definitely blew back in my face. And what I was basically realizing, or what my clients were finding out, was that their leads would go to them and they say, oh, I spoke to someone called Ben on the phone. And then the clients would be like, wait, Ben's the one that's calling the leads? Ben's literally doing like everything else. But I would explain it like, oh, like we have a team who like take care of the leads and stuff like that. But yeah, like they didn't work out. Anyway, that's beside this point. And so this issue went on for a while. Like before I actually built a team that could go and call leads, before I actually hired someone who could go and do this effectively, I went through 5-6 people before I could really find one person that was doing it well. And even then it wasn't perfect, but it took a long time. And this took me like 3 months to get right. It took me a long time to get right. And this was an issue that when my friend Steven came up to this, it basically got to the point where he realized that this was an issue which he would have to like change a lot of things in his business. He would have to dedicate a lot of time to it. I was basically full-time on my agency at this point, and he wasn't. And so he was basically faced with a decision, like, what do I do here? This was a problem that was really big, and he thought in his head that he could not solve this problem. And so he told me that he was basically quitting the agency. He was leaving his business. He was not doing this anymore, and he was just going to do his job, his 9 to 5, and then that was it, right? He quit his business, so he gave up on his dream. And so I, at the time, was a little bit like upset by this. I was basically like nervous about this, because this was a person who we basically bounced ideas off all the time. We'd solve problems together. This was someone who was actually really important for my agency journey, right? And so I was trying to convince him and trying to tell him that like this was not the right thing to do and that he should keep going. Partly as a friend and partly because I was kind of worried that if he quits, maybe I should quit as well, right? And the kind of doubt and lack of confidence was transferring to me and growing to me a little bit, right? And one of the things I remember telling him, and I had a lot of confidence, right? And I always have done. I've always been very confident that I'm going to achieve my goals. And I told him that like at this point we're basically making no money. And I told him that like, look, you can quit now, but in a year's time, 2 years time, 3 years time, like I'm going to be making six figures, multi six figures, maybe even seven figures, right? And you're going to be still making whatever he was making, like 20 something thousand a year or something like that, right? And this was me trying to sort of motivate him, but I also deeply thought that inside of myself, and I knew I'd do whatever it takes to get to the point that I'm at now. And when I think back on it, this was, a long time ago now, but I have no idea what he's doing at the moment, and maybe I should reach out and actually like ask him, but maybe I don't want to like sort of tell him I told you so. But exactly what I said happened. And if you're in a situation now where you're thinking about giving up, where you have a problem that you might not be able to solve, where something has gotten way, way worse than you thought it ever could be, you're really being tested right now, then you could be this person. You could be Stephen. You could be thinking, I'm going to quit now. I'm not going to do this. And if you do that, then you have a 0% chance of actually overcoming this. You have 0% chance of getting to the goal you set out because you have quit. But if you don't, and if you keep going, then there's always that chance there. And so what I'm trying to say with this is that every single time that you overcome or you get faced with an obstacle and you overcome that, you're now not only improving your chances of actually getting to whatever your goal is, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month, whatever it is, but you're also overtaking the people that stopped at this point. And so I think this now, every time that I have this problem, I know people that have had really big problems in the past and they haven't been able to overcome those problems. But by overcoming this, I've now surpassed those people who didn't overcome this, right? There's people who give up at this point. And so every single time I'm faced with something, every single time there's this bit of adversity and I'm thinking, there's always that little doubt. There's always that little voice in your head that says, you know what? Life would be so much easier if you just had a 9 to 5, if you just went and did like a regular job, because like the work and the pressure that you're putting yourself under is like super, super hard. You always think like, you know what? Like I made like decent money. Like I could just do this. Like, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but you have to keep going. And I know that every single time that I keep going and I go further and I go beyond this obstacle that's facing me and I actually overcome it, then I know that there's going to be a bunch of people that are behind me that I left behind by overcoming that decision, right? By overcoming that obstacle, sorry. And so that's what you have to think. If you're thinking about giving up now, if you're thinking about packing everything in, if you're thinking about, just going back to whatever it was you were doing before, just know that there's probably someone out there that's facing a similar problem to this, if not a big problem, and they are going to stop. And so this person is going to stop, and a lot of people are going to stop, but are you going to stop? And if you don't, you're going to overtake those, you're going to go further than those, because you're going to be able to solve this problem eventually, because every problem can be solved. Believe me, I've faced so many issues inside of my business that I can't even begin to tell you. That like some of the issues that we've had, like just tons and tons and tons, and I probably forgot about so many as well. But every single problem can be solved, and you will overcome those problems, and you will overcome this issue that you're having inside of your business right now, whether it's sales or appointment booking or service delivery or whatever it may be. And so basically this video is to just tell you that if you do give up, then you have like no chance. But if you don't, then you're still in the game. You're going to be above those people who just did automatically give up. And you'll be in a situation where you might have a friend or a person that you're working alongside. There might be someone in a community that you've like made friends with and stuff like that. And when you do quit, when you give up, this person won't. And eventually one of those guys will make it. One of those guys will make 7 figures. One of those guys will be a millionaire. And you will be back in a 9 to 5. You'll be back doing whatever you did before you started this business, whatever you did before you started this agency. And I do feel bad for my friend, but obviously, this is the game. The game is pretty brutal. And I'm in a position where I am now basically doing this full time, and I make, decent money. I can afford the stuff that 99% of people can't, and I run a business which is very fulfilling, and obviously it takes so much out of me, and the energy and the mindset that it takes to run something like this is a lot. But I would much rather be in this position where I did carry on and my friend didn't carry on, right? And it could have been it could have been the other way around, right? He could have carried on, I could have given up, and then we'd be having I wouldn't even be making this YouTube video. There'd be a whole different situation, right? But yeah, I thought this would just put things into perspective for a lot of people. that are thinking about giving up, that do have those doubts. And it is completely normal to think, like, life would be easy if I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. Life would be easy if I didn't have this goal in front of me. Life would be easy if I could just get rid of these obstacles by deciding, you know what, I'm going to go get a job tomorrow. But it also would be very, very difficult to live with yourself and live with that decision. And I'm sure you're probably aware of that. But yeah, just a quick video talking about this. I hope someone got some value out of it. I hope there's someone out there who is thinking about quitting or, pain avoiding their way out of this situation. That's probably not the best idea. And I hope that I've at least encouraged one person to stick to their goal. So yeah, if you need clients for your agency, by the way, click the first link in the description. I don't actually care if you click it or not, by the way. I just want to help people, to be honest with you. And if people want to enjoy these videos and stuff and never click that link ever, then that's completely fine. I will still make 3 videos a week, probably for the next like God knows how many years. But yeah, the link's there if you want to click it. I don't really care if you click it or not. But yeah, like the video, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And yeah, see you in the next one. Cheers.